It could be a baseball stat, technical data, or a name. What is the first ingredient in this equation? The first ingredient is location. Now you may say, what in the world is location? Location is where you choose to store the information. Here's the analogy. Let's pretend that you get a file cabinet and you throw it on the floor. All the files go everywhere. From now on, every time you need to file something, you just throw it on the floor of this room. Then 2 years from now, you need the Jones file or the Smith file. What would you normally do? You'd normally go pull it out of the file cabinet. Well, not anymore, because all the files are on the ground. Do you know how I remembered a 50-digit number that was written on a sheet of paper while a disc jockey played a song? I did it because I had 25 locations in my head, or 25 mental files, and I put a 2-digit number mentally in each file, and that's how I recalled a 50-digit number. You also must have files in your mind in order to store information effectively. When you walk into that room looking for the Jones file and all the files are on the floor, here's the question. Is the Jones file still in that room? Of course it is. It's just scattered and it may take a while, but eventually you'll find it. Or you're at the bank and you can't remember that name. Then 2 hours later on the way home, your mind says, hey, do you want that name now? And you're thinking, no, I wanted it 2 hours ago at the bank. Where were you then? You see, it was there, but accessing and retrieving the information was the challenge. Everything you ever heard or done is in your memory. The problem is that it is on the floor of your memory. We need to pick it up and put it in files or locations. So now your question is, Ron, what in the world is a location? Well, 2,000 years ago, a guy named Simonides lived, and he was the first person that is recorded to have used this location system to recall information. This is what he did. One day, he started out of his door and he walked around town. As he walked, he numbered the buildings in the chronological order that he came upon them. You could do this in your neighborhood. Take a walk tonight around your neighborhood. As you pass distinguishing landmarks, number them. For example, the first thing that you see might be a tree. Make that your number 1 file. Then keep walking, and maybe you see a mailbox, and make that your number 2 file. The next might be your neighbor's house, a stop sign, a park, a store, a garden, a fence, power lines, a police station, or a school. This is what Simonides did 2,000 years ago. Then he got home and he reviewed the files. He mentally walked through the town and said, number 1 is this, and then whatever it was. Number 2 is whatever it was. And he did this with about 35 items. Believe it or not, by saying this list he had created to himself several times and recalling the number that went with the object, he had just created a system that would allow him to give speeches without notes, memorize quotes, poems, and much more. I want you to create some files. Now, you're not going to walk around your neighborhood, but instead walk around your home. You don't have to actually walk around your home. You can just do it mentally if you like. Nevertheless, in a few short moments, when I instruct you, turn off the CD, and I want you to select 20 pieces of furniture in your home to be files. You may say, well, what's an example of a good file? It's an excellent question, and I'm glad you asked. A good example of a file would be a bed, a stove, a TV, a refrigerator, a desk, a lamp, a toilet, a cabinet, a corner, a window, a sink, a fireplace, a picture, a computer, a bookcase, a mirror, or a garage. These are all excellent files. Now, this is what I want you to do. Don't try to make sense of why you're doing this right now. Just trust me that there is a reason. I want you to select 4 rooms in your home that you're going to use for this exercise. Even if you live in a small 1-bedroom apartment, you will still have 4 areas, most likely. The kitchen, bedroom, bathroom, and living room. Now, once you've decided which 4 rooms you're going to use, then get a sheet of paper and write down 5 pieces of furniture in each room for a total of 20 files. Go in a logical order. Start in the doorway of each room and then move around the room in a chronological fashion. Make the one by the door number 1, and then going clockwise the next large object number 2, and so on until you get to number 5. Once you get to number 5, then start in the next room and make that room 6 through 10, the next room 11 through 15, and the final room 16 through 20. I know right now this is making no sense, but if you do this, and I hope that you do, it will be a 10-minute exercise that will reap you rewards for the rest of your life. What you're about to learn is invaluable. It may not make any sense right now, but if you do this, you will be able to memorize chapters of books, improve your grades, teach your children to improve their grades. You'll be able to recall poems, quotes, lists, or even names. This is good stuff, so please do this exercise. In a very brief moment, I'm going to instruct you to stop the program. If you're somewhere where you can sit down and write, I encourage you to write out all 20 of your files to get it organized on paper. If you're somewhere where you can't write, then just simply mentally walk through your house and select 5 items in 4 different rooms for a total of 20 files. Make the first item number 1 and the number 6 item number 6 and the 20th item number 20. It can't get any simpler than that. After you've chosen your 20 files, review them until you know them by heart. You may have to say them to yourself 10 times, but do it until you know them forwards, backwards, and you know what number 12 is. After you do this and are comfortable with your files, then rejoin the program. This is the end of track 2. Join us at track 3 when you complete this exercise. Welcome back. I'm proud of you for making it this far. You've just built your first 20 files. Remember that you need a location to store information mentally. These are locations for your memory. The next item that you need to recall something is a picture. Whatever you want to recall, it must be a picture. Your mind thinks in pictures. When you think of an elephant, you don't see the word E-L-E-P-H-A-N-T spelled out. You see an actual elephant. So let's say that you want to memorize the word freedom on your first house file. You don't see the word freedom spelled out on the file because that isn't a good picture. However, an eagle or a marine is a good picture for freedom. In other words, you must turn abstracts into pictures to recall them. If the word you want to memorize is love, then you might see a heart, Cupid, or a couple. But whatever you do, turn the abstract into a picture. Now, the final ingredient in recalling information is glue. Glue is action. It is emotion. For example, you can't tell me every time you've gotten in a car and driven somewhere. Of course not. It would be foolish to expect that you could. With that said, I bet you can tell me about the time you were driving in your car and you got in a car accident. I bet you can remember all the details of the accident, where you were going, the time of day, who you hit, and so on. Now, why can you recall that so vividly and then not recall every other drive that you've made? The answer is actually very simple. The car accident is vivid because it has glue. The glue is the emotion. When we create pictures with this memory system, we want to make them vivid and crystal clear. You want to involve all your senses. See it, hear it, smell it, touch it, and taste it. If you visualize a fire, then you should imagine the smell and the heat. If the gasoline is in the picture, smell the gas. If it is a thorn, feel the prick of the thorn. We're going to practice a little bit. This is what we're going to do. I'm going to give you a list of 20 words. These will be 20 pictures, and your goal or your mission is to recall these 20 items in the exact order that I give them to you. Now, don't panic. I promise to you that this is possible. This is how you're going to do it. I will say number 1 is, and then I'll give you a picture. You ask yourself, what is my number 1 house file? It might be your couch, your bed, desk, or whatever it is. Once you have that mental image of the file in your mind, then I want you to visualize the picture that I'm giving you for that file. For example, if I say number 1 is a dog and your number 1 file is a desk, I want you to see that dog chained up and barking or scratching the desk or maybe even marking his territory on that desk. Whatever you do, make the story crazy, bizarre, and unusual. If you imagine the dog laying on the desk, you won't recall it because it has no glue. So make these pictures vivid, bizarre, and emotional. After you file the picture to the file, go back and review the one before. Always review the one before. Okay, here we go. Number 1, what is the first file in your house? Do you got the image okay? Now file a washing machine to your number 1 file. See the soap, the spin cycle, make it a vivid picture, and tie it to your number 1 house file. Make sure you have a clear image in your mind right now of a washing machine on your number 1 file. Okay, number 2. On this file, see a dam. You know, like Hoover Dam or Boulder Dam, a dam that holds back water. Create a story with the picture and see it on your file. Make sure the image is solid. Don't just say it. Repeating it over and over does nothing. See it. Okay, now we're on number 3. What